and only God can do. This week in our group, we talked about forgiveness in our neighborhood group, and my neighbors were all there. You could hear a pin drop when the video was over and Michael Morton's testimony was completed. And then we started to talk about it, and there was one woman in the group who said, my dad, he's the worst. She didn't describe it, but she said, a few years ago, I finally forgave him. And I can't tell you, my life has changed. I don't live under that anymore. I can reach out to him. My sisters have not forgiven. And that's all they talk about. That's their life now. They haven't forgiven. They haven't forgiven. So what about you? Now, I know in a message like this, that this is about the time when your inner lawyer rises up and starts saying, well, but what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this, giving you the freedom to stay locked in your prison. So in order to clarify, I just want to answer all of his objections. You know your inner lawyer's a man, right? You knew that, didn't you? I just want to answer all of his objections. And so what I want to do is to clarify as we wrap up here, to do the contrast between what oftentimes we think forgiveness is and what it really is. And so here we go. Let's run through these together. First of all, forgiveness is not reconciliation. It is opportunity. It takes two people to reconcile. Two people have to admit they're wrong. Two people have to come together. But you don't have to have two people for you to be free. You don't have to reconcile. It creates an opportunity to reconcile because people are way more open to reconcile if they know they've been forgiven, but it's not reconciliation. Jesus on the cross was forgiving the people that were driving the nails through his hands, and they had no interest in a reconciled relationship at the time. Second, forgiveness is not fair. It is grace. What that person did that hurt you is not fair. It's never going to be fair. It happened. It's over. You can't go back and fix it by hanging on to anger. It's never going to be fair. And forgiveness is saying, what you did to me was not fair, but I'm going to extend something to you that you don't deserve, which is grace. I'm going to forgive you. Number three, it's not a feeling, it is a decision. We live in a world that's dominated by feeling approach to life. Well, I just don't think I could ever get past these feelings that I have. And we tell our logical, rational mind and our will that makes decisions that you are prisoner to how I feel. That's a dangerous way to live. What this means is that you would trust Jesus enough that when he tells you to forgive, even though you don't feel it, that Jesus will heal your heart by obeying him and doing what he asks you to do. It's making a decision. Forgiveness is not escaping, it is accepting. Some people feel like if I forgive, then the person gets out of all the consequences. That's just not true. That's not true. People are going to have consequences, some that come from God, some that actually come from their own conscience that weighs down, some from the circumstances around them. Doesn't mean that they're out of the consequences of it. They're not getting off. In fact, to think, well, because I hold unforgiveness against them, that's going to keep them from doing it again? Yeah, probably not, okay? What forgiveness is accepting that there are still consequences, and some of those consequences are fair, some of them are unfair, but I am going to forgive anyway. I'm going to forgive anyway. Next one, forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not remembering. Now, some of you are thinking, what does that mean? So here's what it means. The mind has an uncanny ability to store information, good and bad, right? Something happened to you when you're 10, you may still remember it today. Some of those things are terrible, what they did to you. Maybe you remember the day when she walked out the door and left you. You remember that. You're probably never going to not have it registered in your mind, especially if you got kids and you got to get back together and all of that kind of stuff. But not remembering is choosing not to dwell on it, not to talk about it, not to think about it, not to daydream about it, to take those thoughts captive. Clara Barton, who was really the founder of modern nursing, one day she was having a conversation with a colleague, and the colleague said, remember that time when so-and-so did you wrong, when they really hurt you and slandered you? And Clara Barton said, I don't remember that. And her colleague said, oh, come on, that was so-and-so, and they did such as. Clara Barton said this, I distinctly remember deciding to forget that. It's choosing. This is not going to dominate my memory, my thinking. It's not excusing, it is releasing. In other words, it's not saying that what the other person did is somehow less, it's not that bad, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's actually embracing the full magnitude. Here's what they did. Here's how terrible it was. Here's what it cost me. Here's how it hurts me. I am willing to embrace the whole full reality of it. Just as God did with your sin and mine, the whole thing. Didn't sweep it under the carpet and pretend like it was rainbows and unicorns. Embrace the whole reality of it and then dealt with it. It's coming to the point where you're willing to release it and let it go. Lewis Smead said, some people view forgiveness as a cheap avoidance of justice, a plastering over of wrong, a sentimental make-believe. If forgiveness is a whitewashing of wrong, then it is itself wrong. Nothing that whitewashes evil can be good. It can be good only if it is a redemption from the effects of evil, not make-believing that the evil never happened. It's embracing that all the evil happened and then deciding you're going to redeem that evil by offering love and grace and forgiveness instead. Forgiveness is not a single event, it's a continuous process. Jesus said 77 times, it's a continuous process, especially if you live with somebody that's flawed. Anybody here live with somebody that's flawed? Don't have to do a show of hands. Oh yeah, I got some people that are raising their hand. Good job. We're all flawed, right? So you're going to have to continue. I need not to say that, right? Ask the wrong question. Okay, here we go. Forgiveness is not natural. It's supernatural. We live in a dog-eat-dog world. We do not live in a dog-forgive-dog world, do we? We do not live in a dog-forgive-dog world. We live in a dog-eat-dog world. I love what W.H. Eldon said about this. He said, I and the public know what every school children learn. Those to whom evil is done do evil in return. Like you start learning that on the playground, right? You hit me, I hit you. You talk bad about me, I talk bad about you. You're grumpy toward me, I'm grumpy toward you. You sue me, I'm going to sue you. That's the world we live in, right? This is not natural. Forgiveness is giving somebody something that is divine in nature, something that they actually don't deserve. It is not natural, it's supernatural. And finally, it is not an option, it is an obligation. If you embrace Jesus Christ, forgiveness is not something that is a pleasantry that you might offer because you're a magnanimous person. Look at what Paul writes in Colossians 3:13. He says, bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Out of God's kindness and mercy, He has chosen to pour out His punishment, His justice, His wrath on Jesus and forgive you. And He did that to restore you, to change you, to give you a new start, a new life, a new heart, to bind you in a permanent relationship with Himself. Our responsibility is to return the same to those in our lives who've hurt us. My prayer for you today is that you would open up the prison because the lock and the key are on the inside. They're in your hand. It's open to you through the power of God. And take a step that will give you your life back. Let's bow our heads for prayer. With your head bowed, I would just challenge you today. Is there a face that comes to mind? It may even be somebody that's passed on. And you need to let it go. It's time to say, God, I forgive them. And I'm going to live in that forgiveness. Maybe today you've never received the love and forgiveness of God, and you say, I'd love to have my sins forgiven. Could that really happen? The answer to that is yes, it can happen. You can experience total and complete forgiveness and freedom from Jesus Christ. And so today is my prayer that you would embrace him. Father, I pray that there would be shackles falling to the floor, prison doors opening, people emerging into the bright light of your grace and love. And today would be the start of a new future.